You probably want to build more strength with less time and effort, and we're told there are no safe shortcuts for doing so. A recent review of over 1,600 participants across 45 studies showed otherwise. There is a shortcut, and it's remarkably safe. And missing this training tool can leave strength gains on the table, especially if you're recovering after an injury. Enter blood flow restriction training, aka BFR. Blood flow restriction sounds like torture. It's actually one of the smartest ways we have to trick your muscles into thinking they're lifting heavy weights when they're only lifting about 20 to 40% of the load. That's why physical therapists, orthopedics, and professional sports teams have been using it for years. You might be wondering, what is blood flow restriction training? How does it build strength? And how can I use it? Well, what is BFR? First, blood flow restriction training sounds masochistic. No, this isn't something only for roided out gym bros. It's a way of tricking your system into growing more muscle if you're deloading, recovering from injury, or older and can't lift heavy weights. Personally, and within the last year, I used it for recovering from a knee injury, and more recently, tendonitis of my elbow, and I've been using it 2 times a week over the past 18 months. I've also used it successfully for hundreds of patients in our clinic. The biggest mistake I see is people wrapping bands around their limbs until they're painfully tight. That's not blood flow restriction training. It's just unscientifically cutting off circulation. Here's how it works. The cuff is strapped around your leg or arm. A digital or simple pump method is used to inflate it, sort of like a blood pressure cuff. The difference is this cuff remains inflated while you exercise. The amount of inflation is calculated to safely reduce a proportion of returning blood flow from your limb. Why? Let's take it all the way back to high school biology. There are 2 types of vessels. One, arteries, which are deep within your limbs, and they bring oxygenated blood and nutrients to your muscles. Think of them kind of like supply lines. Veins remove deoxygenated blood and waste from your muscles. They're like sewer lines, and they're close to your skin. They're the ones that you have blood drawn from. When a BFR cuff applies pressure to your arm or leg, veins are partially and safely obstructed. This means that deoxygenated blood and metabolic waste, like lactic acid, remains in your muscles longer. Because blood has a harder time leaving the limb, oxygen levels inside the muscle fall, while metabolites build up. Your muscles start acting like they're lifting something much heavier than they really are. This effect is twofold. 1, the muscle experiences a great deal of metabolic stress. 2, your muscles are still contracting under load, even if that load is light. So how could this be good for muscle growth? Well, on one hand, you have more chemical damage to muscle tissue, ligament tissue, and tendon tissue, which triggers a growth hormone response. Additionally, mechanical damage occurs because there are more muscle fibers being used under the stress of BFR. Repeated use of BFR causes more blood vessels to grow within muscle tissue, supplying more nutrients and oxygen over time. But is this better than just strength training? For those who can't lift heavy weights, this emulates an environment that causes muscle growth on par with lifting heavy weights. So how does this build strength? There's a reason for the expression dumb muscle. It's not actually dumb, but it relies on signals to either grow or shrink. Simply, BFR training sends muscles outsized signals to grow despite using light resistance. BFR causes large hormonal responses, including increases in growth hormones and other signaling molecules. Years ago, we thought that these hormones were the main reason muscles grew. Today, we understand they're probably just one piece of the puzzle. The real driver is the powerful local signals inside the muscle telling it to adapt. Data shows that after BFR training, human growth hormone increased by up to 170%. VEGF, a blood vessel growth factor, increased between 310 and 580%. IGF-1 and testosterone, both important growth factors, spike after BFR training too. I think of BFR training like a true cheat code for building strength with less effort and less time. So how can you use it at home? In our clinic, I use expensive digital cuffs for our patients. They do all the calculations for me, and I control them easily from my phone. They run between $1.5 and $2,000 right now. I like to work out on a budget, so I bought simple analog cuffs with an easy pump mechanism to work out at my home gym. I strap them on, pump them up to my pre-calculated pressure, around 70% of limb occlusion pressure, and I lift with them for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. I use 20 to 40% of my 1 rep max for exercises that I superset or do back to back. I bought the Edge Mobility BFR cuff system that came with 2 leg and 2 arm cuffs. It also came with a manual pump. It cost me less than $300, and I'm quite happy with the cost to value ratio. I recommend trying a simple system like the Edge BFR cuffs before considering springing for the digital cuffs. You will need to calibrate the cuffs, and a finger SpO2 monitor is useful to help calculate limb occlusion pressure during setup. It's sold by Edge Mobility as well, but you can get them really at any large store. The cuffs do also come with instructions on how to safely calculate the pressure. I have no connection with this brand, and I found them economical and efficient. If you're interested in more content like this, please like, leave a comment, and/or subscribe. Thanks for watching.